Hello YouTube, and welcome back to the Life of a Virtual Airline Pilot with me, Captain Mac. And once again, we're diving right into our CRJ 700 mission. That's not actually the name of the mission. I don't recall off the top of my head what the name of it was, but all of the flights are in CRJ 700, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and keep on calling it. You may recall last time we flew from Seattle up to Calgary, CYYC, or Charlie Yankee Yankee Charlie, for those of you who are inclined to continue with the phonetic alphabet. Let's see here. So today we're going to actually go from Calgary back to Seattle. So it's relatively the same flight. However, the routing that we're going to be taking due to the departure that we're using and a few other things is actually going to take us a little bit further out. It was, well, let's take a look here. So the flight's scheduled for 392 miles, and we're going to have about another 50 miles on top of that. 440 something miles is our actual total distance. The flight time's booked for an hour and 45 minutes. We'll probably get in a little early either way, so we should be good to go on that. Still Horizon Air, still the CRJ 700. Shout out to my man Shaker, one of our subscribers. He turned me on to the FSX profiles for the CRJ 700, so we should have a better fuel calculation, and surprisingly it's still putting us right around 8,000 pounds for this flight. That being said, I'm still confident that this particular default CRJ 700 does burn fuel a little higher, at a little higher rate than it's supposed to. So even though we only actually burned about 2,500 pounds on the last flight, and I didn't specifically look at how much we burned, but that also, it's supposed to include taxi time, additional fuel for diversions. You have to have an additional 45 minutes of fuel, just contingency fuel, and so on and so forth. So that's what's putting us up there at such a high fuel load for a flight that really only uses about 2,500 to 3,000 pounds. Okay, it is what it is. That's how it is in the real world too. So we're good to go on that. So, all of that being said, we're still going to use Active Sky 2012 for our weather, so we're not too worried about the weather here. One of these days, if somebody shows the interest, I will do a more in-depth flight planning tutorial. I haven't really gotten to it because the first one I didn't get a whole lot of attention, but it was basic, and a lot of you probably already know that. So if you guys are interested in seeing an advanced flight planning tutorial that involves this, PFPX, and maybe a couple of other options available, let me know, and I'll be more than happy to try and throw that together for you. All of that being said, we've talked way too long here on the website when what we really want to do is hop in the sim and get to flying. So, what do you say we hop on over there and get started? And welcome aboard, ladies and germs. I hope you like my long, drawn-out introduction there. It's always a good time. As you can see here, we are looking at our Horizon Air repaint, the same one that we flew on our last flight, and we're going to stick with this one again for this flight. We're flying back into Washington, so it seems to me that it's relatively appropriate to fly this one. When we get into some other airports, we'll definitely fly some of the other liveries that we have for this guy. I love these repaints, actually. They did a really neat job, and I like that for Horizon Air, you know, they've got, instead of just, you know, well, I guess all the airlines kind of do it now, but Horizon Air does it with college teams, whereas most of your bigger airlines do it with NFL teams and stuff like that. But it's kind of neat to have these repaints on there, and I enjoy that. So all of that being said, hope you had an opportunity to take a look at the little graphic down there that lays out our flight plan for the day, how long it's going to take us, how high we're going to fly, all of that good stuff. I'm going to keep sticking with that thing. I like it. I think it looks really cool. Just another shout out to Matt Davies. That is an idea that I got from watching some of his videos. I took it and made it a little bit my own, but I just want to give credit where credit is due once again. Matt Davies, awesome stuff. Love his videos, so hope you guys enjoy that. That being said, let's take a quick look at a couple of ground charts for the airport here so that we have a better understanding of where we're at. Which, if we take a look at our parking chart here, you can see that this is gate B34, so B concourse being the concourse that is used by Horizon Air here at Calgary. We're going to go with B34. It is a little different on my what am I talking about? On my EFB, it shows up as gate 26. And that's what it goes with. That's what it is in FSX as well. Now keep in mind that these charts are relatively updated. This is from 13 August of 2015, and FSX was made in 2006. So clearly there's going to be a difference there, and that's all right. But at least that gives us an idea of where we're parked at and can prepare us for what we need to do, or for how we need to push back and everything to get ready for our taxi. So that's why I wanted to show you this here. Now let's take a quick look at our entire airport layout so that we have an idea of where we need to go during our taxi to get to the runway that we're using for departure today. So the wind is going to be 260 at 12 knots, gusting to 19. So it's going to be pretty busy today as far as the wind is concerned. That being said, we do have runway 26 down here. Now, it's not a very long runway. In fact, it's a very short runway. But we could do a short field takeoff because we're not going to be that heavy. And with a, with a 12 to 19 knot wind, headwind, we shouldn't have any issues getting off the ground. So that's one option. The other option would be to take runway 29er, which would give us a relatively stiff crosswind, but not too bad, looking at approximately a 30-degree crosswind. Really 25 degrees, because you can see right here that it's 285 degrees, or 285 degrees is the heading for the runway. And we do get a little more length if we use that one. So I haven't made a final decision yet, but I just wanted to show you that here's our, this is our airport layout here. So we take a quick look. We already looked at the parking chart, which showed us that we're on Concourse B. So regardless of which runway we choose to use, if we come on over here to Taxiway Golf, cross Juliet, down Golf here, and then we can either continue down Golf and cross over runway 29 and 11, and then on down to 26, which would be a turnaround up here, or we can come down Golf, hang a left here on Foxtrot down to the end. So we'll make that decision here right before we get ready to taxi out. But again, just in the spirit of adding the realism to it, I'm adding these charts in here because this is what you do in the real world. You take a look at your layout, unless you know the airport really well. If you know an airport really well, you don't necessarily need this chart in front of you. But there we go. Just something to keep in mind if we do decide to use runway 26. We see this little circle right here. This corresponds to this little warning right here. It says crossing runway 29, aircraft will mistake taxiways Golf and Charlie. So keep in mind that this is Charlie here and this is Golf. So if we cross using Golf, we'll cross onto taxiway Charlie. So just something to keep in mind there. Let's go ahead and hop in on this. Let's go ahead and hop into the aircraft, get things started up, and then we can worry about which runway we're going to take and the departure briefing. Alright, so now that we got that out of the way, let's do a little house cleaning here real quick and get our ACARs taken care of. Pop that up right here. You can see I've already gone ahead and grabbed the next bid. Make sure that our current location, CYYC, is the same as our departure airport, CYYC, which it is. Hour and 45-minute flight, we should be good to go. Let's go ahead and grab one of those previous routes. Once again, it doesn't matter if we fly this route. We just have to have it in there for this flight map. Click on Setup Flight. Notice that the Start Flight button is not highlighted yet. We said flight level 360 today. And now the Start Flight button is highlighted. We need to make sure engines are off and parking brakes are set, which they are. Start flight. Don't worry about the difference in the model title. We've been good to go all along, so we're good there. Shrink that down, and we are ready to rock and roll. So let's hop inside, and let's get started up here. Of course, I don't have a avionics switch that works, so the avionics stay on, even though I haven't been using them. But we have gone ahead and turned the APU on and the engines off, of course, so we're ready to go on all of that. Landing lights are all off. Beacon is on as it should be. So before start or pre-flight checks here, we want to go ahead and set our altitude to our cruising altitude, since we're not going to have any at or below restrictions. So up to 360, 36,000 feet. Oop, down one there. And then even though there is officially no auto throttle in this aircraft, in the real world anyway, this default FSX model, I couldn't think there, default FSX model does use one, so we'll go ahead and set our speed to 240 knots. We'll worry about setting our runway heading right before or right after we pull onto the runway, make sure we're good to go there. And it actually, you know what, let's go ahead and set it, because we want to be at, we're going to want to be at 285 degrees, and you'll see why here in a few minutes. So let's set that to 285 degrees, which is the other way, you know. Boy, that thing spins quick, doesn't it? Boy, I hate how it jumps around like that. There we go, 285 degrees. That's going to be our initial climb out heading. We'll see that when we brief the departure here as we start to taxi out. So all of that being said, that's pretty much our pre-flight checks at this point. There's really not much else to do in this default aircraft because we don't have FMC or anything like that, and we're limited in the functions of the aircraft that actually work properly. So being that we're in a proper parking space, let's go ahead and get ready to do our pushback here and start our engines. And we're going to need our nose to go to the right and our tail to go to the left. So let's pull up GSX here. Prepare for pushback and departure. Looks like we only get two choices. Let's go with Air Canada. That's fine by me. You can see them all popping in over there. And we said nose needs to go to the right, tail to the left. He's coming in there. There's really hardly any other airplanes here. My EFB shows a bunch of them. There's just none at this terminal. There's one on the other side over there, but... And, yeah, he'll give us his 2 cents here. Let's wait for him to give us his notifications. One thing about GSX, it is a little slow. And I think there's a beta version out there for the next version of GSX that supposedly is a little quicker. Somebody said you could get it off of their... somebody told me you could get it off of their forums. I haven't gone on there to do it. I'm busy doing about 10 million different things trying to get all of this going, so... You know, it is what it is. While he's doing that, let's go ahead and set our altimeter real quick. It's 2970, and you know, we'll do it the easy way. Hit F10. Altimeter's right here.
Departure check completed. Bypass
2970, and make sure we're on GPS here. Come on, click it. I guess you gotta click it. Now we can pop the parking brake off. You can see ACAR says our passenger loading is completed. That's our little notification that tells us we're good to go. And I think that's about it. I think maybe there's a way to change. No. Just our decision height. Okay, so let's go ahead and start engine. Let's jump over here. Start engine number 2, the right engine. And once again, APU is already running. Bleeds on auto. Ignition goes to continuous. And then for the right engine, press the start button. And that's it. There's nothing else for us to do. We don't need to introduce fuel. It does it on its own. So once this hits... Once the N2 hits 20%, it'll automatically fire the engine. We'll let it stabilize for a second, and then we'll go ahead and turn on the right generator. There you can see it just fired right up on its own. So we'll just let it stabilize for a second, and then we'll worry about taking care of that right generator. And we should be good to go. And actually, I'm a moron. You know what I'm going to do here? So I'm going to leave this on the video. I'm actually going to shut that engine back down, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. So let's shut it down. Go ahead and continue the pushback. Turn that off. Turn the continuous ignition off. APU is still on. We're good to go. And I'm going to let him finish the pushback, but while he's doing that, of course, it's going to pause it. I'm going to pop this up. Look right here. Let me show you why. How much fuel do we need? We don't need 19,000 pounds. We need, what was it, 7,700 pounds or something like that. So, alt button. I meant to do this in a different one anyway. Fuel and payload, that pauses it. That's all right. As long as we're on the ground, we can do this. Now, keep in mind, if you do this in the air while ACARS is running, it will recognize that as a mid-air refuel, and your PIREP will be rejected. So, change our fuel real quick. Let's put this to 0. And we said we want 7,700, so that's what, 38.50 a side, give or take. Let's see if I got it right. My math is terrible. 38.50 a side gives us 7,700 on the nose. That's what we want for our fuel. So once again, we're on the ground. Our engines are both turned off. It's okay to change the fuel even though we've started ACARS. But If you try to do that once you're in the air, it will recognize it as a mid-air refuel, and your PIREP will be rejected. Okay, we're good to go there. Let's try this again. Continuous ignition on, right engine start comes on. It automatically takes care of the fuel for you, and when the N2 hits 20%, it will fire the engine. Let me get rid of that little menu bar there. So now, let's try again to wait for the engine to stabilize. While it's doing that, let me hit this up one here. I saw the engine fire. Let's just throw a little bit of trim in there. 1.7 looks good for me. Hit the primary again. Engine is stabilizing. Set the parking brake. Parking brakes are set. And engine looks stable, so let's go ahead and flip on that right generator. Bam. And let's start the left engine. I think I called the right engine number 1 a minute ago. It's engine number 2. It's right and left. Good to go. Once again, the fuel's introduced automatically, so nothing we need to do there. Once it is 20% N2, and it'll fire the engine. Bam, just like that. So yeah, quick and easy. That's kind of nice, but I think on the other hand, I think I would prefer that you know, it did, what do you call it, that we had the procedures to go through and stuff like that, but such is life sometimes, so we just have to deal with it. Alright, what else we got here? I think that's it. We need to turn that left generator on at this point. Left generator comes on, APU generator can go off now, APU can go off. Click it once, give it a minute, it'll turn itself off. This stuff doesn't work up here. There's nothing we can do with this in the default aircraft, but the anti-ice does work, so if we have any issues with icing like we did on the last flight, we can turn on our anti-icing. Nav lights on, strobe lights on. No, strobe lights on. There we go. We don't really need logo lights. It's pretty light out. We don't really need wing inspection lights, but we'll put them on anyway. And taxi lights can come on at this point as well. Should have had the seatbelt signs on already. Now they are. We've set everything else as far as our autopilot is concerned, which means all we have to do now is taxi on out and get this show on the road. So, as always, give me 1 second to just do my last minute checks here, make sure I didn't miss something so I don't look like a complete moron, and then we'll taxi this airplane out. Alright, so as we're starting to taxi out here, well, why don't we go ahead and take care of that departure briefing, so that we know where we're going once we get off the ground. So I've made the decision to go ahead and take runway 29er, and we're regardless of which runway I chose, we're going to be taking the Stampede 8 departure. And as you can see here, the departures are pretty straightforward. You're not actually flying some very specific route or anything like that. They're pretty much straight out. So this is going to be our departure here on runway 29, and you can see it shows us at heading 285, and that's all the information we get. We don't have any other information on altitude restrictions or anything like that, just waypoints that are out here, and we've got some distance rings in here. That being said, the way it's set up here, we've got a text format that goes along with this, and we're going to take a look at that here in just a second. I just want to throw out a reminder out there when you're using the Lido charts. If you need your frequencies, they are right here. So departure from the to the west is 124.525, which is the direction that we're going to be heading, and then Edmonton Center on 124.525 also. Looks like interesting that they're on the same frequency, or 133.300. So we would hit departure on this frequency, and we'd probably just stay there for Edmonton Center until they pushed us somewhere else. That being said, look at that. That was pretty cool, right? That's what happens when you have two screens. This is the text version of the Stampede 8 departure, and you can see there's a whole lot of information on here. This is not a tutorial on this particular type of chart, so I'm just going to go through this really fast. You've got which runway you're looking at here. We're taking 29. It gives us the heading 285 degrees. You've got your climb rates here based on ground speed and feet per minute, and it gives you a climb rate in percentage there. Not too worried about that at the moment. Really what I want to focus on is this right here. For runway 29, we must climb at heading 285 to a minimum of 6,500 feet. That's our concern right here. So for this departure, we need to get to 6,500 feet and then off to our first waypoint at once we reach 6,500 feet on heading 285. Now that being said, of course, if you're using ATC, what does that mean? Well, if you're using air traffic control, that means that they're going to give you vectors of where you're going. Now, I don't want to miss this because somebody's going to call me out on it otherwise. Your initial departure, it is heading 285 because that's the heading of the runway, but it's a steep climb to 4,300 feet, 3.7 degrees. Not as steep as runway 26, which is a 6.1 degree climb. But we must climb at a minimum of 3.7% gradient. I guess that's what that's supposed to mean, gradient. But we're going to be taking off at about 240 knots. And for 3.7% gradient, we need to have an initial climb rate of about 900 feet per minute. We're actually going to be higher than that. I don't know if this is intended to be a restriction or simply a minimum. If it's a minimum, we can beat that no problem. If it's a restriction, as in you cannot climb higher, well, then we'd be exceeding that. But not too worried about that. If anybody knows for sure if that's meant to be a restriction, please let me know. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get on up to the runway here and get this bird in the air. Alright, so we can take care of our before takeoff checklist now, right before we pull onto the runway here. We want to make sure that our landing lights are on. We want to make sure that our engine ignition is on continuous, which it is. And we just want to double check everything. We've got our runway heading, or our initial heading set, our altimeter is set, and our speed, our initial speed is set as well. Here we are in front of runway 28 now. I know somebody's already thinking, wait, runway 28, you said runway 29. Okay, I'm going to give you a quick little lesson here in runway numerology, if that's even a word. Okay, the runway heading, or the runway number, is based relatively on the runway heading. So runway 28, in this case, it's 285 degrees, right? So here's the thing. True north and magnetic north change a little over time. And I'm not going to go into a long diatribe about the scientific reasons why, because I don't even know them all. But basically, it's suffice to say there's a difference between true north and magnetic north, and that shifts over time. So when FSX was put out, CYYC probably had runway 28. But over time, it's been, 9 years since FSX was put out. Runway 28 at CYYC is now runway 29 because of a difference in the heading. So our approach, or not our approach, I'm sorry, our departure chart, our SID chart shows it is runway 29. Our airport layout chart shows it is runway 29 because those charts are from this year. So it is runway 29 now. Those are up-to-date charts, but here in FSX it's still runway 28. So that's why we're using 28. So sometimes you have to be able to figure that out. So there you go. That's why we're using runway 28. Technically, it's supposed to be runway 29. So there you go. Enough said. Last thing, I hadn't done it yet. Let's bring the flaps in. We do the flaps 20. Now, the reason I do flaps 20, because when I was flying in the next gen, if I didn't have it set on flaps 20, it gave me a flaps warning every time, which was obnoxious. So I'm assuming it's flaps 20 for takeoff. I don't really know. I'm hoping that when Aerosoft puts out their CRJ, they'll have a good solid manual on it that'll give us realistic information. But until then, we're stuck with this one, and so we're going with flaps 20. Good times. It's a short field anyway, or a short runway. Not really a short field, but it's called a short field takeoff. So what we're going to do here is we're going to line up on the runway and use as little as possible as we line up. So even though we're not quite centered, we're going to go there. We're going to run the engines a little over 50%. And as they come over 50% and start to settle, I'm going to release the brakes and then go full throttle. Bam, full throttle. Now, I'm not saying that this is exactly the right way to do a short field takeoff in a jet. I do know that for a prop plane, you just put it to full throttle and then release the brakes. So there you go. And we're looking for rotation speed of around 130 knots. That's what I'm looking for. There's 100 knots right there. We're looking good. Coming up on 135. We got plenty of runway. We didn't even need to do a short field. Let's go ahead and pull gently back on the yoke. She's airborne already and wants to climb. Positive rate of climb, gear up. Take a little of that trim out. We don't want to climb too fast. Boy, that was way more trim than we needed, wasn't it? And there we go. Let's climb on this for a minute. So our initial climb out is on heading 285, which is what we're on right now. So we are following our SID as we're supposed to. So we're good to go on that. And we'll continue to climb out on this in accordance with our standard instrument departure briefing. And that's that. So yeah, After takeoff checklist, flaps up. They're coming up right now. Gear is already up. Climb speed will be set here shortly based on, you guessed it, the vertical speed hold. So autopilot engaged, speed on, and we're at 18. Let's put it at 2,500 feet per minute. Let the speed hold do its thing, and we're good to go. That's our after takeoff checklist. So instead of making you sit here and watch a bunch of stuff, I'm going to break away for a few minutes. I'll get this aircraft on course as it should be, and then I will see you all when we reach cruise altitude for our next checklist. So here we are at flight level 360, and after doing the takeoff, I thought about it, and I thought, in the last episode I said I was going to find a checklist for this CRJ, but I hadn't yet. So I went and found one before doing the cruise checklist. I have it over here on the other screen so that we can go through a proper checklist and try and get back on track with doing things the right way. That being said, you may have noted here that we don't have airspeed indication because we're in icing conditions again. I think I'm just going to flip on the anti-ice on this thing from now on because it's been at least 5 minutes since I turned it on, and it just seems to take forever. If those things will even, I don't even know if the anti-ice works on this thing, to be honest with you. So it is what it is. We're just going to have to watch ourselves. Try to use, whoops, sorry about that. Try to use our ground speed here to sort of help indicate to us how fast we're actually going, and we're just going to have to do it like that. So that's what we're going to have to do for now. So that being said, let's go ahead and take care of this cruise checklist with a semi-proper checklist over here. First things first, once we cross transition altitude, we need to make sure our altimeter is set to 29902 or standard pressure, which it is. And then we set our cruise speed. Flight level 330 and above is 0.78 Mach, and then I think if you get to 390, which is the max of this aircraft, it's 0.76 Mach. Right now it shows our Mach setting at 0.85. Let me tune that down just to... it shows it for, so it's 285 indicated airspeed. So let's set that to 285, just so if it does kick back in, we're where we want to be. Now turn it back off, and let's just pull those throttles back to where they were, just so we don't overspeed. We need to check engine and engines and engine instruments, which we're continually monitoring. Big one here, I'll pop this up for you. Fuel flow, we want to keep an eye on that. Keep our fuel flow from being too high because obviously we don't want to run out of fuel. And that's the next one on the list. Check your fuel quantity and then tune and set radios as necessary. Autopilot checked and set, and then lights are as required. When we cross 10,000 feet, we turn landing lights off. The rest of the lights remain on. And that is it for your cruise checklist. There's nothing else to do as we cruise along here. So I'm going to let you guys go so you don't have to sit here and stare into the wild blue yonder, because that's what you do on your own flight sims, and you probably don't want to do that on my videos, right? Or maybe you do, but either way, I'm going to hop off of here and I'll be back on when we get near top of descent. Alright, so it's going to be the Glasser 9 arrival into Seattle today, and we're coming in from the northeast over here, so we're going to be using this feeder route here. We'll intercept at onset here, and we need to be, the minimum altitude for this airway is flight level 240, so we'll probably be a little higher than that when we're out here at onset, but we'll just see how it goes. But we want to be at least at flight level 240. So from the intercept here at onset, we'll continue on down here to Lost. Hopefully we won't get lost from this point. We'll see how that goes, but we'll be around 222, 223 degrees at this point here at Lost. Same altitude requirement, so we'll continue from there down to cruiser. The heading doesn't really change at this point, so we'll keep on tracking in. It does say that we can, between cruiser and Glasser, which is the actual intercept of the arrival, it does tell us that we can be at 16,000 feet, so we will probably begin descending here if we're, regardless of whether we're at 24,000 feet or not, we're going to begin descending here. Okay, enough about that. Once we reach Glasser, right turn to 256, and then there's no legitimate altitude restrictions on the star back here, just the airway restrictions. But once we reach this waypoint here, which is Jackson, we're going to have an altitude restriction there. Now, the wind right now is 190 at 12, so we're going to be landing to the south. So this altitude restriction of at or above 16,000 feet That applies to aircraft landing to the north, not to us. This is us right here, 12,000 feet and 250 knots for jets landing to the south. And of course, we're not a prop plane, so this one doesn't apply either. So when we reach Jackson, we need to be at 12,000 feet and 250 knots. We'll hang a left turn at 203 degrees down to Woody, from Woody on to Heather, and these altitude restrictions here are both for jets landing to the north. So we'll be descending as we come through here. We'll hang a right at Heather to 250 degrees to intercept the ILS for, I believe it's runway 16 left we're going to be going in on. But we'll know for sure when we do the approach brief. So that's the arrival today into Seattle. Let's hop back over here to the aircraft and get this show on the road, shall we? Alright, we're coming up on our top of descent here pretty quick, and we need to go ahead and take care of our descent checklist. Now this particular checklist I have has you check the ATIS first and last. We're not going to be doing that. We're not actually going to be using the ATIS because we're not using FSX weather program or anything like that. I don't know how well it works with active skies. So I'll show you how we check our weather as the last thing for this checklist. Altimeter is 29902, and it's going to remain that until we get below 18,000 feet, and we will double check when we check our weather what that needs to change to. Radio set. The only thing I want to do for radios right now is I do want to go ahead and tune in that not the VOR but the ILS, which is going to be 110.30, and you'll see that when we do our approach briefing. But the easiest way to do it here, you could use the knobs here. So you need to select. Let's see, how do you do it here? Oh, it doesn't even let you select it. This only tunes this one here for the default FSX aircraft. So we'll just go right here, 110.30. Scroll it down, switch the frequency, and now our ILS is programmed in nav1. So we're good to go there. What else we got here? De-icing as required. Well, we're going to leave it on. You can see that the speed indicator tape is working now, so we're going to leave the anti-ice on. Our outside air temperature is negative 20 degrees Celsius anyway. So descent speed should be between 0.75 and 0.65 Mach until you get to flight level 180, and then below flight level 12,000 or 12. It's not flight level 12,000, but below 12,000 feet, you're supposed to go to 280 knots, and then of course 250 when you're below 10,000. We'll watch all that as we descend. What else we got? Fuel quantities and balance. I'll pop this up so you can see it a little better. We've got 2477, 2477, so I'd say our quantity and balance is spot on, right? Back to the primary there. And flaps and landing gear, check that they're up. Landing gear is up and locked, and the flaps are up. So we're good to go there. So the last thing we want to do real quick, we're just about ready to descend, is I want to show you how we check the weather here. And I pop down here and pull up my Active Sky 2012. So type in the airport here that you want the weather for, which in this case is Seattle. Tells us how far we are from it when it was last updated. Our wind direction is 200 at 9 knots, gusting to 19, which means our runway is still going to be, I think we had planned for 16 left, so we're going to stick with that. And it is overcast with an altimeter of 29906, so we'll need to keep that in mind so that we can change it when the time comes. The temperature is 18 degrees Celsius and the dew point is 13. And in case you're wondering, so it says overcast, but it doesn't say how high. So you can come down here to your METAR. And it's Seattle at on the 31st at 22:53 Zulu is when this report was put out. Wind 200 at 9, gusting to 19. 10 statute miles visibility. Clouds scattered at 2,600 feet. Broken at 3,100 feet, and overcast at 12,000 feet. And then the rest of this is the same information that we had up here. So that's how you can take a quick look. And if you don't know how to read a METAR, just hop on down here to the decoded textual weather for Seattle, and you get all the exact same information I just gave you. So that is that, and that brings us directly to our top of descent. So let's go ahead and crank that altitude down. And what do we say? Our minimum altitude was? We don't want to go below 24,000 feet yet, so let's take it down to 24,000, and then as we progress along, we'll descend further as needed. So all of that being said, we're into the descent now, and we're good to go. So I will be seeing you guys when we do the approach briefing. Okay, let's take a look at our approach into Seattle today. ILS runway 16 left. Frequency is 110.30, and the identifier is India Sierra November Quebec. We're going to intercept here at Kenmo. We'll turn to 100 or 163 degrees, 163 degrees. Stay on that through our initial fix here, our initial approach fix. 163 degrees here, and that is Helzer. And then it's Carfo will remain 163 degrees. Our final approach point is right here, and that is oh, it looks like, is that Douglas there, or is Douglas down here? I think, yeah, that's Douglas there. So final approach point at Douglas. We should be on the glide slope and localizer at that point there, continuing at 163 degrees. Simultaneous approaches with runway 16 right are approved, so we'll need to keep an eye out for other aircraft. And just a real quick look at the profile here. Plenty of lights, so if the visibility is not good, we should be good to go. Our touchdown zone is pretty much flat. We've got 3,627 meters of runway with a 46 meter width and a slight negative gradient. So we're going to be landing downhill, so it's just something to keep in mind as far as our braking is concerned. Touchdown zone is at 432 feet MSL. Once again, intercepting our initial approach fix officially at Helzer, and we'll be at 4,000 feet and 163 degrees and begin our descent there. It's a 3-degree descent past Carfo onto Douglas, which is our final approach point at 1,900 feet. Missed approach procedures. If we have to do a missed approach, we'll climb on heading 165 degrees or heading 165 and intercept the not 11, but the 161 radial from the Seattle VOR towards Tebney. Now at Tebney we must be at or below. We have a maximum altitude of 2,000 feet, so at or below 2,000 feet at Tebney. Once we pass Tebney, then we can climb on up to 5,000 feet towards Milt and enter a standard right-hand holding pattern, and we can see that on our graphic right here. Climb to 900 feet until we pass the Seattle VOR, and then at or below 10,000 feet at Tebney. From Tebney up to 5,000 feet at Milt, and then we would enter a right-hand holding pattern until otherwise instructed by ATC. Since we're not using ATC, it's not going to matter. We're going to be coming in at about 140 knots, so from 6.2 nautical miles from ISNQ, which is our ILS, right here at Douglas, our final approach point. It should take us approximately 1 minute 54 seconds to reach the missed approach point. So our Category 1 ILS, we have our minimums are set at 200 feet MSL. We have 0.5 nautical miles runway visible range, and that's 640 feet MSL, in case anybody's wondering about that. So it should take us just shy of 2 minutes to reach that point. If we fly for more than 1 minute and 54 seconds, regardless of whether we've had a minimums call out or not, if we cannot see the runway, we should execute a missed approach. And that, ladies and germs, is the approach briefing. Alright, let's go ahead and take care of our approach checklist really quick. We need to make sure the fasten seatbelts and no smoking signs are on, which they are. APU, we're supposed to start it up, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. Put it on right there, but not the generator yet. We need to wait till she's up and running. We don't actually have a good indicator on here as to whether or not the APU is running. You'd think you'd have it like the electrical system, but you don't. You just have hydraulics. Yeah, it doesn't tell us, so. Alright, so we'll just let it go for a second, and then the APU generator comes on. So let's go ahead and flip that on now. It's the one in the middle there. Okay, APU generator is now on. Avionics and radios are set, which they are. We've gone ahead and set our final approach course. We're still on GPS. We'll switch over to nav once we're ready to intercept the localizer there. And what else we got here? Speed. It says 200 knots. I've got it. We're just about 220. I'm letting we're basically changing speed or altitude for speed right now, and I'm just going to let it do its thing for the moment. So we're good to go. We're actually coming in a little low here, so I'm actually going to level that out just a little bit. And what else? Landing lights on. They are below 10,000 feet. There we go. Auto spoilers. It says arm. I guess that's armed. I don't know. They never seem to pop up on their own, but we'll leave them there. in that position now. Flaps need to be either 1 or 8. Flaps will come in here shortly. We're not quite ready for flaps yet, but we are getting close. And let's see, it looks like it just goes all the way down to actual landing here. The approach checklist does, so, which is kind of weird because there's a landing checklist too. But we're going to land with full flaps when the time comes, so our speed will need to be 135 knots, and de-icing will remain on. And we need to make sure the parking brake is off, which it is. So that is our approach checklist. And as you can see, we're just about to intercept the localizer here, and it looks like probably the glide slope simultaneously. Our speed's hopping around a little bit because of the gusty winds, but we're going to go ahead and bring that all the way down to 135 now. That is our VREF speed, and we want to land between 125 and 130, give or take just a little. We're a little high here. It's not intercepting the glide slope real well. We can go ahead and bring the gear down at this time. Gear is coming down. And obviously we've got good visibility. We've broken out of the clouds. You can see right in front of us there is Boeing Field. A little notification reminding us not to land at Boeing Field. It's amazing how many times things like that actually happen, that it requires a warning on the charts. But hey, it is what it is. So, all that being said, let's take care of the landing checklist really quick. Landing gear needs to be down, which it is. Autopilot and auto throttle will come off here in a little bit, not quite yet. Landing speed is 135 knots. Hello, Southwest Airlines. Welcome to the party. My goodness, did you see? I really hope he's landing on 16 right there. Wow, look at this guy. Huh? We're gonna have to keep an eye on him. I don't want to do a go around, so what I might do is, as we're sort of following him in here, it looks like he's coming over to 16 left, so we'll just hop on over to 16 right at the last minute here. So we'll continue to fly the ILS for the moment to 16 left, but then we'll sidestep to 16 right. Landing speed is set after touchdown, of course, reverse thrust and all that, and we'll be good to go. We were going to shoot for what did we say we were shooting for? I don't even know what I'm talking about now. I'm going to stop talking and just fly this airplane in. Oh, you know what that is there? You know what that is? Okay, it's not a glitch in my yoke. All right, just for the record, it is not. I thought it was in the past. It is not a glitch in my yoke. Here's what it is. Somebody told me. It is the wake turbulence setting on my active sky. That's what it is. Where'd he go? Oh, he's over there now. Boy, he slowed away. Boy, he just messed us all up, didn't he? Alright, let's get back on track here. We're just a little high. Oh, I really got to figure out how to adjust this yoke properly. Okay, we're going way too fast now. Boy, he messed us all up. I hate AI traffic. Really ticks me off. Alright. Sorry. I got a little upset there. Boy, in the real world, he'd lose his pilot's license, huh? Come on. Okay. Alright, here we go. I think we're alright now. I think we're alright. We're going to land on 16 right here. And, yeah. Wow. You dirty bird. Coming in a little hot there.
500.
Yeah, 500. Gotcha.
400.
Right. So we're going to be just a little long on our landing here. It is what it is. Boy, that was something else, huh? This is a little throttle. Okay, come on. This yoke is
100.
really touchy here. Come on.
50,
okay.
40,
flare.
30, 20, 20, 20.
Come on.
10,
Come on.
10.
Oh, a little rough on the landing if you ask me. As we roll out after touchdown here, let's take a quick look at the layout chart for Seattle here. We are going for Concourse C. That's where we need to park today. So let's try and get off this runway at Taxiway November so we can hang a quick left and get into our parking space. Wow, wasn't that a treat? That was really messed up in my opinion. I really hate that. That's one of the drawbacks to not using ATC. Not that FSX default ATC is worth a darn anyway, because let's be honest, that's horrible. But yeah, not particularly pleased with that. My apologies there. Well, what am I apologizing for? It's not my fault the crazy Southwest Airlines pilot went all bonkers and cut in front of us like that. You know, you would think that somehow they would have built that into this. Yeah, I understand that there's a lot involved there, but really? I mean, come on. That's just ridiculous. Whatever. It is what it is. Let's get on over to our gate here. I will go ahead. It's a short taxi. Alright, should be a pretty quick taxi for us today. We've been assigned to park at gate Charlie 14, and that one's right here in front, so it shouldn't take us long. That is a normal parking space for Horizon Air, so we're good to go there. A big surprise, Southwest Airlines airplane taxiing right towards us. I'll bet he just goes right through us too if he could, huh? Well, we'll be on our gate here shortly anyway. I'm actually a little miffed by that. That's obnoxious. I know I could just turn off the AI traffic. I like to have the traffic in there. I just don't like that. It's just like it's absolutely in its own little world here, you know, like your airplane doesn't exist or something. I don't really understand why it's set up that way. It's quite obnoxious to me. But whatever. It is what it is. Alright, let's park this turkey. Get it? Turkey? Bird? Airplane bird? Haha. Funny? No, nothing. Crickets, huh? Alright, well, whatever. I'm going to park it anyway. Alrighty. Screecher to a halt there. Put the parking brake on. Let's take a look at everything here. We need to, let's hop to the overhead. It's a little easier to see here. APU's already running. APU generator is on, so we can shut off engines 2 and then engine 1. As those come off, we can turn the generators off. There we go. We're golden on that. Landing lights are already off. Taxi lights can come off. Everything comes off except the beacons as far as lights are concerned. Anti-ice can come off at this point. Continuous ignition and start switches can all come off. You could probably just stop the engines up here too, but I didn't do that, so it is what it is. That was sort of half a hiccup there in case you were wondering. Okay, do we need to do anything else in here? Yes, we do. 8 cars arrived. Whoo, look at that landing rate. Well, it's still good though, like, you know, between 1 and 200 is pretty much a greaser, so it's still a good landing. But yeah, a little bumpy, I suppose, for my taste, but whatever. Hour and a half is how long it took us. Was scheduled for 1:45, so we're a little early. Anyways, we're good to go. Let's go ahead and end the flight. Make sure we're connected to the internet, which we are. File the PIREP. PIREP is filed. Close it out. And Roger Dodger, we are good to go. And now he's just sitting there. He probably wanted to come to this gate. I probably took his gate. Good, that's what you get for cutting me off, sucker. Could you imagine if there, you got road rage? Imagine if there was air rage. Air rage. It looked like air rage the way he cut me off, didn't it? That other plane's still sitting out there too. He was sitting there when we landed. He's just sitting there on the side of the runway. AI traffic is clearly on its own program, and I don't have the thing paused, so I don't know why it's doing that, but tis what it is. So we're good to go. Let's hop on over to the website, close this thing out, and let's call it a show. Alright, ladies and germs, here we are on the website, taking a quick look here. Obviously our location has changed, as it should. We're in Seattle now, down to 73 hours left until that promotion. Seems like a long way off, but I think we're going to get there pretty quick. I think it's going to be surprising. Taking a look at the last flight here. Hop on over. Let's see if it's giving us credit already. Auto approves. We're good to go. Ooh, profit percentage was crud on that. That doesn't even make sense. What? It says profit was negative 37.54. Now that doesn't add up, does it? Gross revenue was $73.50. Fuel cost... That's weird. It says we used 6,928 kilograms of fuel, but we didn't. We didn't use anywhere near that much fuel. What the heck happened there? Well, something clearly went wrong with that. So our profit percentage is pretty much tanked on that one. Good thing we're not rated on that, right? Other than that, not much else we need to really look at here. We just need to know that that's wrong, and it is what it is. So, good to go. This flight is done, sir, done. And we can call it a wrap on this one. So, hope you enjoyed the flight, ladies and gentlemen. I enjoyed it very much, as I always do, except, wow, that was some craziness with that Southwest pilot, huh? I'm going to have to report him to the FAA, I think. I don't think that'll work for FSX, though. Probably won't do anything. Oh, well. Well, if you enjoyed the show, folks, please give it a thumbs up down below. And, of course, as always, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it very much. Other than that, keep the blue side up unless you're crossing the Pacific, in which case you are on your own because both sides are blue. In case you didn't figure out why I say that. All right, guys, have a good day.